Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you like this watch, first, I don't blame you, and second, you can see it and purchase it on thewatchbox.com. If you were to make a list of 6 absolute apex Patek Philippe references from the last quarter century, and you were to discard availability, budget, wait lists, practical considerations, without a doubt, the 5970P would be on that list. This is part of the pantheon, and not just for the last quarter century, for all time. The ultimate 5970, the one made from the tail end of 2008 only to the leading edge of 2010. The watch is scarce, always an application piece, and never common. This is one of the last and the best of the legendary 2004 to 2010 5970 series. On my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, it has impressive presence. First, the case size is neither oversized nor traditional. It's 40 millimeters in diameter, which means it wears easily on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. You can see when I move far from the camera, the proportion is gorgeous. The lug-to-lug span of the watch is reasonably constrained, 46.7 millimeters and 13.1 millimeters thick, with a generously sloped case flank and a concave bezel. It slides easily under a dress cuff, and I endorse this watch for wrists as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference. You will note that the lug spacing is fairly broad. It's modern in that respect, 21 millimeters, and you can see that top Wesselton diamond between the lugs, signifying a Patek Philippe platinum case of the modern era. Easy to wear, nevertheless substantial. You never forget you're wearing a sizable platinum watch, and it features a gorgeous strap, which is a semi-gloss medium rectangular scale alligator leather, minimally bolstered. You can see it features a sheer side with a thin profile and Patek's modern and highly convenient pull-tab spring bars, so you can easily remove the strap if you wish to change it or simply clean between the lugs. You will want a deployant clasp on a watch like this, the ultimate security against accidental droppage while donning or removing at bedside. The clasp, like the case, is all of platinum 950 with a filigree style Calatrava Cross atop the buckle. Absolutely beautiful, and it nicely counterweights the watch, so if you like to wear your watch loose, it's a pleasure to have that heavy buckle on the underside acting like the keel of a sailboat. Because these watches are scarce and they were late production among the 5970s, they tend to be new enough that they've never been refinished and special enough that people have known better than to try. So the case lines here, as well as the lug profiles, remain exactly as they left Geneva. You will note that the stepped lugs have immense sculptural beauty, beautifully stepped out from the flanks of the case and historically inspired. They have a presence all of their own, faceted, curved, polished, substantial, and beguiling. They play with the light in exciting ways, and their hard character lines contrast intriguingly with the sensuous curves of the case itself. There is a little bit of a lip between mid-case and case band and bezel and case band, helping to define the horizontals of the watch. All in high polish. It appears appropriate on a watch 40 millimeters in diameter. It's not excessively garish or overly flamboyant. This watch is surprisingly discreet for what it is. You will note that the dial is classically arrayed with a couple of mono counters and aperture day and month. We may as well start the chronograph so we can watch that roll along past the base 1000 tachymeter. Hey, you never know when you're going to take your grand complication to a race course. The timepiece features all applied white gold faceted indices for the hours, white gold hands, leaf style hands for both the minutes and hours of the day as well as the sub-registers, with the exception of the mono counter at 9 o'clock. You will note a midnight blue moon disk within the crescent style moon phase at 6 o'clock, and a subtle faceting about the apertures at 12 o'clock, so it's not a sheer cut from the dial base down to the discs themselves. There's a little bit of a transition about the faceting, and these details are what make a fine watch. The attention to detail is superb, and because of the matte finish of the dial, it has a little bit of almost a Vanta black effect. It contains and constrains the reflections as well as the return of light more than you expect. You'll also note that the watch features a traditional train track or railroad style calibration inboard of the tachymeter scale for reading your chronograph seconds as well as minutes more precisely. On the crown side, you will note vintage-inspired lozenge-style chronograph pushers, and then what many would, in my opinion, correctly describe as the main event. On the case back, this is the CH2770QP. So it is a Perpetual calendar Lemania-based chronograph. The Lemania base, under a different marquee and a different level of finish and spec, went to the moon as the Omega Caliber 321. In Patek speak, it's called the CH2770, and Lemania would have called this the 2310. So now that we're all on the same page, let's talk about the spec. Manual wind with a 48-hour power reserve. This 24 jewel movement finished with the Geneva hallmark, beats away at 18,000 vibrations per hour. You can see the enormous balance, giving you the polar moment that makes up for the low beat rate. It is adjusted in 6 positions and keeps chronometer grade time. If you don't have a high rate escapement, you want a huge balance. Mission accomplished. That big beat balance is almost 1/3 the diameter of the entire movement. Now it has a Breguet over coil hairspring, so it keeps very good position in, or very good time in any position or orientation with respect to gravity. That's why the watch is adjusted in 6 positions. Thanks to the overcoil, it can easily perform thusly. You'll note that there is a column wheel with a black polished cover, and the watch is a lateral clutch column wheel chronograph. Let's talk about what that means. You can see the lateral clutch with the driving wheel connected to the 4th wheel of the going train, and then the intermediate wheel. When I engaged the system, right there, I disengaged. I brought the clutch out of contact with the chronograph center wheel. Now I've re-engaged. You can see that center wheel turning. You'll note the levers and horns of the system interacting with the column wheel, and once I've disengaged the lateral clutch, I can reset it, and you'll see the recentering hammers fall on the heart cams at center. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer, get this in focus. I'm somewhat constrained by the limits of my lens. Okay, now you can see the recentering hammers acting, and that's why you want a manual wind lateral clutch chronograph. It leaves nothing to the imagination. You can see absolutely everything. 30 meters water resistant. It's not a sports watch, but thanks to Patek Philippe's free-sprung Gyromax style regulator system, it can actually take and hold a precise regulation even in the face of bumps and disruptions on the wrist. Now this model was made from late 2008 through early 2010. The Geneva hallmark was present from late 2008 until roughly July 2009. So you can see this watch, which features the Geneva hallmark rather than the Patek Philippe seal, was part of the first flight of the watches with the old style Poinçon de Genève on the bridges. You'll note the standards of finish impeccable. Everything that's lighting up as I turn the watch flush to the camera features mirrored surfacing, anglage. You'll note the interiors of the jewel sinks and the screw sinks, also mirrored, just like the edges of the bridges and the cocks. You'll note the edges of all of the levers, likewise beveled and black polished. You'll note as I turn the watch flush to the camera, every screw head, as well as the cover of the column wheel itself turning black. That's poly noir or black polish, the highest standard of optical finish. You'll also note, if I can turn it at the right angle, perfectly aligned Côte de Genève across the bridges. A small detail, but a much appreciated one, and that is real Côte de Genève, laid down with an abrasive wheel rather than stamped on. Straight graining, or dressage, a satin finish linearly across the tops of all of the chronograph levers, and though you can't see it, a tight and even engine-turned perlage underneath that enormous slow-beating balance wheel. You can see this rarity, this all-time great, and make it yours on the Watchbox.